Most men spend their lives chasing women, begging for attention, and lowering their value in the process. But what if you could reverse this? What if, instead of you chasing her, she became obsessed with you, thinking of you day and night, without you lifting a finger? In this video, you'll learn how to create that pull, not through neediness, but through power. Desire is not born from what is constantly available. It thrives in distance, in the shadows, in the things just beyond reach. A man who wishes to make a woman obsessed must first learn the art of absence. Constant presence breeds familiarity, and familiarity dulls the fire of desire. When a man is always available, when he answers every call instantly, when he shows eagerness at every glance, he becomes predictable. Predictability is the enemy of obsession. It makes you safe, ordinary, unremarkable. To be craved, you must cultivate an aura of mystery, of uncertainty, of partial presence and deliberate absence. Imagine a banquet laid out every day, overflowing with food. At first, one feasts greedily, but soon the appetite dulls, for what is always present loses its flavor. Now imagine a rare delicacy, offered sparingly, only at unexpected moments. The anticipation of its return, the memory of its taste, burns brighter than the feast that is always available. A woman's mind works in the same way. When she cannot fully possess you, when your time and energy are not easily handed over, she begins to imagine, to yearn, to obsess. Your absence forces her mind to work against her own will. She begins to ask, where is he? Why has he not come? What is he doing without me? In this silence, her imagination builds a man larger than life. But absence alone is not enough. If you disappear completely, you risk being forgotten. Mystery is the balance that keeps the flame alive. To be mysterious is to reveal just enough to provoke curiosity, but never enough to satisfy it. A man of mystery speaks little but says much with his presence. He leaves questions unanswered, stories half told, gestures incomplete. He allows her to see fragments of his world, but never the whole picture. This partial revelation torments the mind, for the human spirit craves completion. What is hidden is always more powerful than what is fully revealed. A woman may admire the man who gives her constant attention. She will not be consumed by him. She may enjoy his presence, but she will not lose herself in him. True obsession comes from the one who withholds, grants only fragments, who forces her into a labyrinth of thought. His silence becomes a language. His absence becomes a presence stronger than his actual body. Each time he withdraws, she feels the void, and in that void, she suffers a hunger only he can satisfy. This hunger is not simply physical, it is psychological, emotional, even spiritual. Mystery is also a weapon against time. Beauty fades, passion softens, habits dull the senses. But mystery resists decay. A woman cannot tire of what she does not fully know. The unknown is eternal, for it cannot be conquered. If you give her all of yourself too soon, she will believe she has mastered you. But if you remain partly concealed, she will forever reach for the unseen part, unable to let go. Her mind will not rest, for she believes there is always more to uncover, more to win, more to understand. In that endless pursuit lies her obsession. Absence, wielded with precision, makes every return a grand event. A single look, a single touch, after days of distance, carries more weight than hours of constant closeness. This is the secret of rulers, artists, and lovers alike. What is scarce becomes valuable. Diamonds are treasured not because they are the most useful stone, but because they are rare. Your presence must be like that diamond, rare, refined, touchable, yet irresistible. To master absence, you must first master yourself. Weak men cannot withdraw, for they fear being forgotten. They cling, they chase, they smother, and in doing so they suffocate the very desire they seek to ignite. The man who commands obsession is the man who does not fear stepping back. He knows that each step away draws her closer. He knows that silence speaks louder than words, and that the void he creates becomes unbearable to her. This is why absence must be deliberate, never accidental. It is not neglect, nor laziness, nor cowardice. It is strategy. You must calculate when to retreat and when to advance. You must know when to vanish from her world and when to return as though nothing has happened. She must never be certain of your rhythm, for predictability breeds comfort, and comfort kills desire. She must never feel she has you secured, for what is secured is no longer valued. She must always sense the possibility of loss, and in that fear, her obsession grows. Mystery completes what absence begins. It is not enough to be away, you must also be unknown. A man who leaves but whose life is transparent will not inspire curiosity. A man who withdraws into a world she cannot enter, whose thoughts she cannot read, whose passions she cannot predict. This man becomes unforgettable. She may have you in her arms, but never fully in her grasp, and this torment keeps her bound to you. She will replay every moment, every word, every silence, searching for answers that never come. And in that endless search, her desire becomes obsession. Power in relationships is never equal. One side will always command more influence, and the one who bends, who seeks, who pleads, is the one who loses it. To make a woman obsess, a man must learn the silent art of indifference. It is not cruelty, nor ignorance, but a deliberate withdrawal of emotional dependency. When a woman realizes that her beauty, her presence, even her withdrawal does not shake you, she begins to feel something rare, a loss of power. That loss of power creates fascination because she is not accustomed to it. Most men surrender quickly at the sight of her smile or the curve of her body. Most men melt under the weight of her tears or her silence. But the man who remains unmoved, who looks at her with calm indifference, forces her to question her own value in his eyes, and this questioning feeds her obsession. A woman lives in the knowledge of her influence. From youth, she discovers that her beauty bends men to her will, that her presence draws attention without effort. She expects pursuit, she expects submission, she expects to be desired. But the moment she faces a man who does not respond as all others do, she enters unfamiliar territory. This man does not run after her, does not collapse under her rejection, does not inflate her ego with constant praise. She feels his distance, his calm, his refusal to be owned, and this disturbs her. It is in this disturbance that obsession is born, for the human spirit cannot resist what it cannot easily dominate. Indifference is not about showing no interest at all, for that would breed contempt. It is about controlled restraint, about never allowing her to see that you are desperate for her validation. You may look, you may speak, you may even smile. Your spirit must remain untouchable. The greatest strength lies not in pretending to be cold, but in truly not needing her to complete you. A man who is indifferent does not perform tricks to keep her entertained. He does not throw himself at her feet, nor does he beg for attention. He moves as though his world is complete with or without her. And this quiet strength is far more attractive than open need. The reason indifference works is simple: desire follows value. What is rare is valuable, and what is not dependent is rare. When a woman sees that her approval is not necessary for your peace, she begins to question why she does not have your full attention. The very fact that she cannot control you makes you stand above the countless others who can be swayed with a single word or gesture. She will test you. She will try to break through your calm exterior. She will attempt to provoke emotion. She may grow frustrated, even angry. Underneath that anger is a fire of attraction. She is not used to indifference, and what the human spirit cannot conquer, it desires all the more. Indifference is also a shield. When you do not chase, you do not expose yourself to humiliation. When you do not depend on her affection, you cannot be broken by its withdrawal. This composure makes you untouchable. She cannot wound what does not cling. She cannot manipulate what does not need. This is why indifference is the purest form of power and attraction. It leaves you free, while she becomes bound by the chains of uncertainty. She begins to wonder, does he even want me? Why does he not react? Why does he not crave me as others do? These questions gnaw at her, and in searching for the answer, she digs herself deeper into obsession. The subtlety of indifference lies in balance. Too much coldness, and you seem unapproachable. Too much attention, and you fall into her control. The art is in giving enough to keep her close, while never enough to give her dominance. You may compliment her beauty, but without worship. You may spend time with her without rearranging your life for her whims. You may allow her into your presence, but she must always sense that your world does not revolve around her. This balance keeps her in a constant state of pursuit. She cannot settle, she cannot rest, for she has not secured her place in your heart. It is the lack of security that breeds desire. When indifference is mastered, the woman becomes the chaser. She begins to invest her time, her energy, her thoughts into you. She becomes the one sending the late-night message, the one seeking reassurance, the one striving to impress. Each time you remain calm, composed, and unaffected, she invests even more, hoping to win the approval that never comes fully. This cycle deepens the bond, for people value what they struggle to obtain. The harder she works for your attention, the more she convinces herself that you must be worth it. What was once your silence becomes her obsession. Indifference is not a mask that can be worn briefly. It must be a part of who you are, rooted in the discipline of self-sufficiency. A man who needs nothing is the man who controls everything. Women are drawn to this control because it contrasts so deeply with the weak desperation they encounter daily. A man who is unmoved becomes larger than life, a figure she cannot ignore, a presence she cannot escape. And though she may resist, though she may deny it to herself, she will find her thoughts circling back to him, wondering why his indifference pierces deeper than any affection she has known. Obsession is never born from what is freely given. It emerges from restraint, from the thin line between fulfillment and denial, from the deliberate play of closeness and distance. A woman does not become consumed by the man who lays himself bare, offering every word, every secret, every piece of his soul without hesitation. She becomes consumed by the one who withholds, who gives in fragments, who creates tension in every interaction. This tension is not cruelty, it is design. It is the architecture of desire, where every pause, every silence, every unfinished gesture plants a seed in her mind that grows long after you have left the room. The human spirit is wired to chase what it cannot fully grasp. The fruit within reach is soon forgotten, but the fruit just out of reach haunts the imagination. When you speak, you must not speak everything. When you touch, you must not touch completely. When you look at her, let your gaze linger for a moment too short, as though you pulled it back deliberately. Every action should suggest more than it reveals, promising depth without ever offering full possession. She begins to feel that there is always another layer to uncover, another piece of you she has not yet claimed, and in this endless pursuit lies the birth of obsession. Tension is the pulse of attraction because it awakens her mind. Imagine a fire. It burns bright only when fed with air, not when suffocated. In the same way, if you smother her with constant reassurance, constant presence, constant attention, you suffocate the fire of her desire. But if you create space, space filled with uncertainty, space where her thoughts wander, space where she questions, you give the fire air, and it grows uncontrollably. This is why the most powerful encounters are not the ones that end in immediate gratification, but the ones that leave her restless, unsatisfied, imagining what could have been if only the moment had lasted longer. There is immense power in the unfinished. A conversation cut short, a story left incomplete, kiss paused too soon. These are not weaknesses but weapons. The unfinished compels her mind to return again and again, replaying the scene, rewriting it, craving its completion. The man who leaves something undone controls her imagination, and the imagination is a far stronger prison than the body, for she may walk away from your presence, but she cannot walk away from the thoughts you planted in her mind. Tension must also be emotional. If you reveal your entire heart too quickly, you hand her power. If you show glimpses, moments of warmth followed by moments of withdrawal, you create uncertainty. She will wonder where she stands, whether she has moved you, whether she has captured your interest or not. This uncertainty sharpens her focus, keeps her restless, compels her to try harder. A woman values most the man who makes her work for his affection, not the one who throws it at her feet. It is the effort she invests that binds her tighter, and it is tension that forces this effort. The art of tension is also the art of silence. A single pause in conversation can speak louder than words. A moment of stillness can feel heavier than movement. When you hold back your response, when you delay your answer, when you allow her to sit in the discomfort of not knowing, you turn the air between you into a battlefield where her own mind works against her. She begins to imagine, to interpret, to project meaning onto your silence. And in doing so, she binds herself to you without realizing it. Physical tension follows the same law. A light touch on her arm that withdraws before she can respond creates a rush greater than a full embrace. A glance that lingers just a second too long before turning away ignites curiosity stronger than staring endlessly. It is the restraint that fuels her obsession, denies her the closure she unconsciously seeks. When you do not give her everything, She convinces herself that more must exist, and she cannot stop reaching for it. Tension is not chaos, it is mastery. To wield it, you must know timing. Too much distance, and she will drift away. Too much closeness, and she will feel she has conquered you. The power lies in rhythm, in giving enough to awaken her appetite and withholding enough to keep her starving. Each moment with you should feel like a taste, never a feast. Each encounter should feel like the opening to something larger, something just beyond reach. In this way, she begins to carry you with her long after you are gone. What makes tension irresistible is that it ties desire to struggle. The harder she works to interpret you, the more she invests in the connection. The more she invests, the more she convinces herself of its importance. This is the trap hidden in the game of tension. She will mistake her obsession for choice, believing she pursues you of her own free will, when in reality it is the design of your restraint that keeps her tied. Her mind becomes your accomplice, weaving fantasies in the spaces you deliberately leave empty. Through tension, you transform from a man she simply likes into a presence she cannot shake. You do not dominate through force, but through incompleteness. You do not enslave through possession, but through denial. Each time you withhold, you plant a thorn in her thoughts. Each time you retreat, you leave behind echoes that torment her. And though she may resist, though she may try to dismiss it, she will find herself returning again and again to the unfinished moments, to the unanswered questions, to the tension you so carefully created. A man without standards is a man easily bent, easily replaced, and easily forgotten. A man with standards, however, commands respect before he ever utters a word. Standards are the invisible fortress that guard your value. They are the silent law that dictates who may enter your world and under what conditions. To make a woman obsess, you must not only possess standards, but live by them with unwavering discipline. For nothing ignites desire more powerfully than a man who cannot be swayed, who does not bend to whims, who remains unmovable even under the pressure of beauty, temptation, or emotion. Most men betray themselves in the presence of women. They abandon their convictions, alter their behavior, and discard their boundaries for the hope of affection. This betrayal is not hidden. Women sense it immediately. The moment she sees you compromise yourself to win her favor, she loses the instinct to chase you, for why should she crave what she already controls? But when she encounters a man whose standards are unshakable, who does not lower himself for her approval, she feels something rare: resistance. This resistance frustrates her, yet it also fascinates her. For the man who stands firm against her charm is a man she cannot easily conquer, and the human spirit always longs for what resists it. Standards are not spoken, they are demonstrated. It is not enough to declare that you value your time, your energy, or your principles. You must embody them. When a woman tries to test you, when she seeks to pull you into her orbit through games or manipulation, your response must be guided not by emotion, but by the law of your standards. If she disrespects your time, you do not argue, you simply withdraw it. If she tests your patience with trivial drama, you do not engage, you remain calm and unmoved. If she expects you to bend to her every desire, you do not complain, you remind her through action that your world does not shift at her command. In this way, your standards become visible without needing explanation. She sees them in your conduct, and conduct cannot be denied. The silent dominance of standards is powerful because it shifts the balance of control. Most men make women the center of their decisions. They rearrange their lives, their schedules, even their values, for the sake of her attention. The man of standards forces her to adapt to him. He does not lower his world for her to enter. She must rise to meet it. This inversion of power is intoxicating because it places her in the unfamiliar role of striving. Instead of being the prize pursued, she becomes the one seeking to prove her worth. And the more effort she invests in meeting your standards, the more deeply she becomes tied to you. Standards also create scarcity, and scarcity breeds desire. A man who accepts anyone, who tolerates anything, is common. His affection has no weight because it is given without measure. But a man whose standards are high, who does not offer himself freely, becomes rare. His approval feels like treasure because it is not easily won. Each time she earns a piece of it, she feels a surge of triumph, and she will crave that feeling again. This is how obsession is built, not through constant indulgence, but through selective reward, through the knowledge that your acceptance is never guaranteed. To live by standards requires discipline. Weak men crumble under pressure, convincing themselves that bending once will not matter. But each compromise chips away at their strength. Each betrayal of principle exposes their fragility. A woman sees this weakness, even if unspoken, and she loses respect. Without respect, there can be no obsession. Respect is the root, and standards are its soil. The man who maintains his ground, who would rather lose her than lose himself, becomes a figure of authority in her eyes. She may resist, she may test, she may even attempt to rebel against his firmness, but deep within, she is drawn to it. For true desire is not born from ease but from the struggle to win what is not easily given. Standards also elevate your aura beyond the physical. Beauty fades, charm dulls, but the presence of a man who governs himself endures. A woman is not only obsessed with the man who looks good or speaks well, she is obsessed with the man who represents something greater than her. He is not just flesh and bone, he is principle embodied. His very presence carries the weight of law, and she feels it in every interaction. She may not be able to name it, but she cannot escape it. She feels that he stands for something beyond her, something untouchable, and this mystery binds her even tighter. A man without standards is replaceable, for there are countless others who will bend and chase. A man with standards is unforgettable, for she will replay his firmness in her mind long after he is gone. She will remember the time he did not yield, the moment he did not break, the instance he chose himself over her approval. And in those memories, her obsession grows. She realizes she cannot manipulate him, cannot fully control him, cannot bend him to her will. What she cannot control, she cannot release. And what she cannot release, she obsesses over endlessly. A woman does not become sexually obsessed with the man who chases, pleads, and bends to her desires. She becomes obsessed with the one who remains beyond her grasp, the one who withholds as much as he gives, the one who governs himself with silence, restraint, and unshakable standards. Obsession is not built in words, but in absence, not in eagerness, but in indifference, not in constant closeness, but in the fire of tension, and not in weakness, but in the firm rule of discipline. When you stand as a man who does not depend on her approval, who does not drown her with attention, who does not reveal all of himself, and who refuses to betray his principles, you transform into something more than a man in her eyes. You become an enigma, a challenge, a force that she cannot fully conquer. And it is precisely this resistance that enslaves her thoughts, that makes her hunger for your presence, that keeps her bound to you even when you are not near. The greatest power is not in chasing her body, but in making her mind chase you endlessly. For the man who learns this art never needs to pursue obsession. It comes to him, it clings to him, and it refuses to let go.